Hello BookTube, it's Eleanor here, and today I'm going to talk about some of the books that I've been reading. If you watched my Snakes and Ladders Picks My TBR for this month, for the month of September, I'll link it up above, then you'll know the books that are on my TBR, and I'm just slowly working my way through those books, picking them up as and when I sort of feel like it. The first book I decided to pick up was a graphic novel, just to sort of start the month on a bit of a nice, easy pace. And so I picked up The Prince and the Dressmaker by Jen Wang. I'd picked this up quite recently, you would have seen it maybe in a recent haul, and I decided to pick this one up because so many people have been raving about it. It wasn't, to begin with, one that I was necessarily going to get. I do love the colour palette and the artwork style in here. I just think it's really what the type of art that I would be drawn to. I really like in graphic novels quite bold colours, quite definite lines, and really quite a simple drawing style, I suppose. It's just something that I really enjoy personally. And then everyone just kept saying what a lovely story it was, and so I thought, right, I'm going to pick this one up. The story is about a prince who wants to wear dresses. Not all the time, but he quite likes to occasionally don a dress, and obviously he feels like he can't be himself and he's kept it under wraps. He then discovers a dressmaker that he decides he's going to hire to come and work for him solely in order to make his dream outfits. Because he's hired her for this reason, he has to disclose to her the reason why, and they end up becoming friends, and they become quite the head turners in the social scene, him under a pseudonym and her as his sort of friend, and they go out and about, and it's just really the story of that. It's the story of learning to be who you are and being brave enough to share that maybe with people, and I just thought it was a really lovely, sweet story. And there was a moment in there where I nearly cried. I won't spoil it to you, but it was something to do with the king, and it filled my heart with joy. I also really enjoyed how strong a character Frances the dressmaker is. She really knows what she wants, and she's not going to settle for anything else. She knows what it is that she wants to try and do with her dressmaking, and she doesn't sort of stray away from that because someone asks her to, or because she feels a certain way about someone, and I really respected that, and I thought that was a really great plot point. So I ended up giving this one 4 stars. Next, I picked up a book that was carried over from my last month's TBR. I'm letting myself do that occasionally if it's a book that I'm definitely going to read. And this one I wanted to as well because A, I enjoyed this author's first book, and B, it was on my reading, my book clubs. It was my book club's book for the summer. And that is Under a Dancing Star by Laura Wood. Laura Wood wrote a book called The Sky Painted Gold, which was an unexpected hit for me. I gave that one 4 stars, and I just was shocked. And I don't know whether it's because the covers sort of lead me into this false sense of security, or because whenever I read anything in a blurb and I realise that it's set in the past, I think historical, I think a certain type of writing, and maybe I just haven't read many historical YA books, but this was just such a joy to read. I really wish that I had been sitting in an Italian garden surrounded by flowers, in the heat of summer reading this, because well, I almost didn't need to actually, because it really did evoke that feeling. The main character in this is B, and it's set in the 1930s. She's not your average, well-to-do lady. She lives in England, and she is a constant disappointment to her parents, who want her to be a debutante and want to marry her off. And she's not really interested at all. She's more happy wading in the mud and looking into scientific experiments and researching glowworms and the sexual mating of flies and dragonflies. She's much more interested and in her element in that, and she wants to do something with that, but she doesn't feel like that's going to be a choice for her. After one slightly disastrous dinner party, her parents decide they're going to ship her off to her uncle for the summer in Italy, and things aren't quite as she expects over there. Her uncle isn't quite the same person he used to be, and the place that he's living has a load of artists visiting, and it's about her experiences there, her experience with one particular artist, and also there is this sort of slight political theme going through there. It's not too heavy, it's just it is in there, and I think that's quite good. It's quite a nice little nod to things that were going on at the time. And I really enjoyed this one. Bee's voice is truly lovely. It reminds me of, so many, you know, when you read a book and a voice is just, it's just right for that character, and it just really fits, but it really just makes you smile. I had it a little bit with Eleanor Oliphant, and Bee's so scientific, and she approaches everything in this sort of scientific manner, even relationships or potential dalliances or summer romances. And I just found it really fun and really funny and really heartwarming, and a really lovely story, and I ended up giving this one 4 stars as well. The next book I read was a buddy read with the lovely Tracy at Flamingo Reads, and you may recognise this book if you've watched my TBR from the one that Matilda picked off my bookshelf, and that is Valley of the Dolls by Jacqueline Suzanne. Matilda picked this off for me, and she decided that this was one I was going to read because she liked what was in the mouth, and I ended up really enjoying this one, really finding it quite fascinating. Totally not what I was expecting. I'd got completely confused with this book, and I thought I was going to be reading the Stepford Wives. I don't know why, I just confused the 2 books, and so this was a bit of a shocker when we were in New York with all these women. But it's set from 3 perspectives, and it's about these 3 women, and they're trying to make it in various different ways in New York. So this is about 3 women in New York in the 20 years spanning from 1945. They're all in some way associated with the entertainment industry, and it's looking at them having to make these choices between careers and power and love, and it doesn't seem that they can have both. And the way that men can get away with anything, it seems, at the women's expense. And there's definitely some language in here that I think is of its time, and is definitely not language that I like to hear now. There's certain words in here that I find offensive to listen to, and I tried to put that out of my mind in terms of thinking about when it was written. That doesn't make it okay, but that side of it I tried to look past and look to what was going on. I'm not going to say the word because you know, I don't want to. So we've got one woman who is only really known for her body. She's got this sort of, she's meant to have this sort of perfect figure, perfect body, beautiful face, and that's really the only thing that she sees she's got going for her, and that other people see, well, men, the people making the decisions, see. We've got one woman who doesn't want to, she's grown up quite wealthy, she doesn't want to just get married, so she's left her small town, come to New York to try and make it. She's working as sort of a secretary in an entertainment and agents offices, and she wants to sort of make it on her own 2 feet. And then we have another woman who wants to be a star. She wants to be a Broadway star, singing, dancing, actress star. And yet she's sort of overlooked, and it's looking at the things you have to do to get to the top, and the way that that changes you when you get there. This is an incredibly readable book. I listened to it on audio. The audio narrator is very strange, but I quite enjoyed the weird accent that everybody had, and it was like reading a soap opera. They made a 1960s film of this, and in fact it's the one film, and I can't remember the actress's name, but she was killed by the Manson family, and I think it's the only film she might have been in. I have just borrowed it off iTunes, and I'm going to, I've rented it off there. I'm going to watch it just to see how it sort of fares. But one of the things obviously that you see here is this pill, and the book gets its name because these 3 women at points in their life turn to these pills that they call dolls, whether it's pills to help them sleep, pills to help them stay awake, pills to help them stay slim, and they become an addiction, and it just shows this descent really into relying on these pills to get by in life. So there is addiction covered in here, so trigger warnings, there is pill addiction, and it's a really depressing book. I can't tell you there's a happy ending, which is sad, and for me, very unusual. I don't like to read books that leave me feeling flat and miserable and despairing. But in this case, it worked for the book, and I think it was the right choice for the writer to make. But I just at the end, I just felt, ugh, like, ugh. It's really good, and I definitely recommend it. I'm so pleased I finally got it too, so well done Matilda for picking it for me, and this is a really strong 4 stars. And then the final book that I completed is Starry Eyes by Jen Bennett. This was very nearly a 5-star read for me. It was just not quite, but it was so good. This was again a carryover from last month. One of the things I really love in here, we're following our main character called Zori, and she lives with her mum and her dad and stepmother. Her stepmother's been with them since she was, I think, maybe 8 or even younger, so she considers her mum. They run a wellness clinic. I think it's based in San Francisco. They run this wellness clinic. The dad does massages, the mum does acupuncture, and they have been struggling since next door a lesbian couple has moved in with their son, Lennon, who has been Zori's best friend for years, and they've set up an adult toy shop, a sex shop, and people have stopped coming to the wellness centre because they don't want people to think they're going in the adult shop. But Zori and Lennon have been friends, best friends for years. Zori is obsessed with looking at the stars and like astrophysicist, no, I can't think of the word. It's not astrology, I don't think. No, because astrology is like your star signs. Oh, I'll get there, or one of you can tell me. And she looks at the stars through her telescope. She is the member of a astronomy, that's it. She's a member of an astronomy club. And Lennon is obsessed with maps and drawing his own maps. You know, he draw his own maps of from the Lord of the Rings. He'd draw maps of places that him and Zori would go on walks to, and at some point in their relationship something's happened, something's changed. They're now not talking to each other, so they don't talk to each other. There's a big bust up between the families, between the mums of Lennon and Zori's mum and dad. She's not quite sure why that's happened. It's the summer, and her mum has convinced her to go on this camping trip, glamping trip really, with her friend Reagan, who's sort of a tenuous friend, someone that she's sort of friends with, but is sort of the really popular girl. And they're going to this sort of glamping site, and she agrees to go, and things happen. And there's this sort of her and Lennon exploring and secrets coming uncovered and finding out what happened. But what I love is that in each section, it's split into sections, we get one of Lennon's maps. And it really does help you to visualise what's going on. So there's hiking going on, and we get a map of hiking. Yeah, there's just some lovely maps in here that really help and add to the story. So I really enjoyed that. I love it when artwork in the story really enhances it for you, and this really did. There's lots of sort of hiking in here and looking at pushing yourself to limits. The main character Zori, she suffers from hives, which is something I haven't seen in a book before, so I really enjoyed that, and sort of struggling with that side of it and how to manage that and how to be able to do things still. And yeah, I just really loved this book for the characters, for the way that it ends. There is this sort of big shift that happens in Zori's life, in her family life, and I'm really pleased with the way that the author decided to take this. And yeah, it just goes to show that parents don't have to be biological to be the best parents and amazing people for you in your life. and sometimes better than someone who is biologically related to you. The characters had really believable chemistry. There was the romance part of this were quite swoon-worthy actually. I really enjoyed Lennon. He's quite a strong character. I really enjoyed him and who he was and his characters. And I just felt like the relationship was quite a believable one, which I quite enjoy. It helps you to sort of get into the book if you feel like you can relate, and I definitely recommend this one. It was so close. I mean, if I was doing half stars, it would be a 4.5. As it is a 4 star. It wasn't quite there, but it was very close. The final book I'm just going to give a very quick mention because I've realised I've waffled on quite a lot in here, and that is Catwoman Soul Stealer by Sarah J Maas. It was on my TBR for this month, and I listened to it on audio, and I just found myself drifting away from this. It's quite an easy listen. It's quite an interesting story. It includes Harlequin and Poison Ivy, and I was nearly 3/4 of the way through and I almost was like, oh, I should just listen to the end, but I just wasn't enjoying it. I just wasn't really listening to it. It was kind of a throwaway story for me, which was a shame. I think a lot of people will really like this, and I think a lot of people do, but I just think it wasn't adding anything for me. It wasn't giving me anything extra that I wanted, and so I decided to DNF it. So that was my DNF this week. I've got so many books still to read, but I'm looking forward to all of them. I'm really enjoying doing the Snakes and Ladders. So let me know if you read any of these, if any of these piqued your interest, and as always, let's chat in the comments down below. Bye for now, BookTube.